but the context is important. And the context is that the KYC, the Know Your Client requirements that the FSA have implemented in British banks have been extremely stringent. They haven't been targeted at Nigerians exclusively, but for example, members of the general public may not know, it is a criminal offence. It is an offence for which you can go to jail if, as a bank teller, you suspect money laundering and do not report it. Mm-hmm. That's quite serious. It's not a civil offence. It's not an offence where you'll be fined. The question is
whether anybody knows that you suspect it. You could suspect it quietly and not say anything. Nobody would know.
Well, I think the tests that apply when you go to court are, you're a bank teller, you receive money from people every day, you've been doing so for the past 3 years, someone shows up with a suitcase full of dollars with a foreign accent and a foreign passport and says, put this in, please. Does it occur to you that this might be money laundering?
But I'm sure it's not always as blatant as that. There must be other ways of doing it. And I'm also interested in your point that some of the other countries, like Switzerland, which we mentioned a moment or two ago, and perhaps non-Western banks, may be even worse than some of the British banks.
Well, worse or better, depending on your perspective. The way that British banks have to operate in a global market for financial services is that they have to be clear, honest, transparent, and factual in the way that they report the things they do. Other countries may not have standards that are quite as high. Mm-hmm. You can go to Lausanne in Switzerland and open a numbered bank account with no name. And
even now?
Even now.
Okay.
And you don't need to explain to them as to whether you're a man in the street from Nigeria or an important politician. They will simply take your money and it will be held anonymously.
Whereas in this country, in Britain, you cannot do that.
There are so many other stringent levels of checks that are gone through. As I said, there are criminal charges that can be brought against individual bank tellers. So. Yeah. To say that the constraints that are placed on monies coming into Britain aren't strong enough, I think is unfair.
Okay, what about the constraints being placed on money coming into or moving through the Nigerian system? How much of a change, Christian, have you seen as a person who tries to raise finance in Britain, in Nigeria, and tries to make things happen on the continent of Africa?
I think the first thing to say in that regard really is that the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has built a reputation for no nonsense.
He's thrown people into jail like Cecilia Ibru.
Yeah, he's sort of caught a figure of someone who will have no brook with corruption and all that. And therefore, people are very, very careful. Good governance is institutionalized now. Risk management procedures are much stronger than they used to be. People are less careless with banking than they might have been.
Do you see in the business community the culture of corruption being rooted out? Because we hear that in the banking community, that's certainly at the top of their agenda from what Chidi is saying.
Well, that's correct. That's absolutely true. Now, I think that sometimes you get the food, you can't help but feel that Nigeria gets an undue focus, and Nigerians themselves actually tend to dwell a whole lot more on that, as if that's really the conversation to be had at all times. And it helps to reinforce the perception and the image that corruption is rife in Nigeria. Well, it isn't, because every time you get names mentioned, it's probably the same names you've been hearing since the 1980s or the 1990s.
All right.
And there's absolutely nothing new about that.
Okay, well, you've taken us back to the 90s or 80s. Let's look at the roots of this culture of corruption, whether it's in Nigeria or anywhere else. Let's focus on Nigeria. That's a topic of discussion for today. Well, earlier this week, a senior imam from Nigeria, Sheikh Mo Alim, visited London, and we put some questions to him about corruption.
It was allowed to go and check little by little until when it engulfed the nation. It started just a matter of maybe 30 years back, when there used to be what was called kickbacks. Of sometimes they were asking 2%, they went to 5%, 10%, 20%, and then 50%, 60%. They are now taking 100%, sometimes even 200%. Why 200%? Because sometimes they make project in which not only they remove all the money for the project, they even remove what is existing. For example, a building may be existing. They may remove the building there and sell the remains, you know, and then will not do anything, you know. So it is endemic, but it is so because it was allowed to continue and it has become like a norm in the society. But it doesn't mean that the situation will continue. A change is bound to come one day.
Sheikh Mo Alim there saying it's become a norm in society. Kayode Ogundamisi, the Nigeria Liberty Forum. How do we root it out then? Because he said it's not going to be there forever, but if nobody does anything about it, then it will, surely.
The point I would like to draw out here, and I want your guests to take it home, is now, today, we have Nigerians living on the $1 to a day. And it is true the regulators in the UK, are required to strengthen their system in such a way people cannot bring in money into the UK. Now, let me draw your
briefly,
attention to
if you
one part
will.
of the report. Hello?
Briefly, if you will. We haven't got much time.
Yeah. We would want a situation whereby we would have a political will on the part of the UK government. I actually want a situation whereby family members of corrupt people, corrupt politicians in Nigeria will be visa targeted, and even those who steal money will not be granted visa into the UK.
Okay.
And then there will be a proper cooperation between the institutions that are meant to fight corruption within the UK.
Okay, Kayode, thank you very much for that. Christian, briefly, what would you want to do?
I think what we need is a resolution on the part of the Nigerian leadership. As I say, you cannot hold somebody else responsible for your own failures or inadequacies. I don't like the business of pointing fingers at countries and institutions. I think what we need to do is hold our leaders to account and make sure that we have not just responsible leaders, but leaders with integrity, who care about their people, who don't misappropriate the funds, because if they don't misappropriate it in the first place, we will not be pointing fingers at anybody.
Okay, Christian.
They must be punished when you find and you identify people, and some of these reports, if they're credible, they will probably have the names and individuals who have misappropriated funds. And I think they should be applied the full weight of the law.
Very good. And very briefly, Chidi?
I'd actually think that it's important, even within the context of the report, to realize that people like Soludo, people like Sanusi, people like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, over the past 5 years in Nigeria have transformed the landscape in a way that most newcomers, and I believe even this report, don't acknowledge.
Okay.
Things are so much better, and getting the balance between the internal constraints that we have and the external constraints that we have is moving forward in the right direction. We should be optimistic, not pessimistic.
Thank you very much indeed. That's it for today. Thanks to all those of you who sent in comments to us. Email africa@presstv.co.uk or text us to this number +44 7800 008086. Messages will be charged at your local operator rate. Many thanks to our guests. They are Chidi Obihara, Christian Udechukwu and Kayode Ogundamisi. Join Voice for next week for another edition of Africa Today. I'll see you the week after. Till then, it's goodbye from me, Henry Bonsu, and the Africa Today team.